The dying light. The twin suns of Kepler 442b had bathed the world of Zephyros in gentle golden light for over 4,000 years. The Zephyrian people had built their entire civilization around this perfect balance of stellar energy, creating vast cities that floated on crystalline platforms above sapphire seas. Their technology was elegant, their society peaceful, and their connection to the cosmos profound. But now, something had gone terribly wrong. Dr. Lyrian Vex stood in the central observatory of New Astoria, the capital city, watching readings that made her blood run cold. Her elongated fingers moved across holographic displays, each calculation confirming her worst fears. The gentle hum of the city's energy collectors, which had provided power for generations, was growing weaker by the day. The northern array is down to 30% efficiency, reported her assistant, young Cale Morvan. His silver eyes reflected the worry that had gripped their entire world for the past 6 months. The radiation shielding can't handle another solar burst like the last one. Lyrian closed her eyes, remembering the catastrophic event that had changed everything. What their astronomers had initially dismissed as routine stellar activity had turned into a disaster beyond their imagination. A massive coronal mass ejection from their primary star had struck their world with unprecedented force, overloading the planetary defense grid that had protected them for millennia. The Zephyrians had always lived in harmony with their dual-star system. Their ancestors had learned to channel stellar energy through a network of collectors and distributors that powered their floating cities and maintained the atmospheric processors that kept their world habitable. But the great solar storm had damaged the core components of their planetary shield, and now deadly radiation was slowly poisoning their atmosphere. "How long do we have?" asked Chancellor Thara Wyneth, who had arrived with an escort of worried advisors. Her usually radiant skin looked pale, aged by months of sleepless nights and impossible decisions. Lyrian turned to face the leader of their world, knowing that her words would seal the fate of 8 million souls. "According to our projections, the atmospheric degradation will reach critical levels within 4 months. After that, the radiation exposure will be fatal to our species within weeks." The observatory fell silent except for the distant humming of failing energy systems. Through the transparent walls they could see other floating cities scattered across the endless ocean, their lights dimmer than they had been just days ago. Children still played in the crystal gardens, artists still painted the aurora-filled skies, and scholars still studied in the great libraries, unaware that their world was dying around them. "What about the deep shelters?" asked Minister Jorik, though his voice lacked conviction. "The underground complexes were designed for temporary refuge during solar storms," Lyrian replied. "They cannot sustain our entire population indefinitely, and they offer no protection against the type of radiation we're facing. We need to evacuate everyone completely to another world." Chancellor Wyneth looked out at her floating city, at her people going about their daily lives below. The weight of leadership had never felt heavier. "Our ships can barely reach the outer system. We have no vessels capable of interstellar travel, let alone transporting millions of people." It was Cale who spoke the thought that everyone was afraid to voice. "We need help from outside, from other worlds, other civilizations." For years, the Zephyrians had detected artificial signals from distant star systems. Their radio telescopes had picked up organized patterns that could only be the product of intelligence, but they had never attempted to make contact. Their society was naturally cautious, preferring observation to interaction when it came to the unknown. "Show me the stellar surveys," Lyrian said, moving to another console. The holographic display filled with star charts, showing the nearby systems where they had detected signs of technological civilizations. The closest was a yellow dwarf star approximately 28 light-years away, designation Earth system according to their astronomical records. The signals from that direction were particularly strong and complex, suggesting a highly advanced society. "If we modify our deep space communication array," Lyrian said slowly, working through the calculations in her mind, "we could boost our signal strength enough to reach them. But it would require every power cell on the planet." "What would we say?" asked the Chancellor. Kale stepped forward, his young mind racing with possibilities. We tell them the truth. We're peaceful, we're dying, and we need help. We show them our culture, our art, our children. We make them understand that we're worth saving. Over the next week, teams of scientists and linguists worked around the clock to create humanity's first message to an alien civilization. They started with mathematics, the universal language, then moved to simple pictographs showing their world, their people, and the crisis they faced. They included samples of their music, recordings of their children laughing, images of their beautiful floating cities. Most importantly, they made their peaceful nature clear. The message contained no references to weapons or military technology, because the Zephyrians had none. Their society had evolved beyond conflict centuries ago, focusing instead on art, science, and harmony with their environment. The final message was elegant in its simplicity. We are the Zephyrian people of the ETO world you call Kepler 442b. Our star system is failing, and our world will be uninhabitable within months. We are a peaceful species with no means of interstellar travel. We have 8 million souls who will die without assistance. We ask not for conquest or territory, but simply for help finding a new home among the stars. We offer our friendship, our knowledge, and our gratitude to any beings who hear this message. On the day of transmission, every Zephyrian on the planet participated in the historic moment. Schools were closed, work suspended, and families gathered to watch as their plea for survival raced across the void at the speed of light. The massive arrays drained their power reserves to dangerous levels, but the message was strong enough to reach distant stars. As the transmission ended, an eerie quiet settled over their world. The cities dimmed as power was redirected to essential systems only. In the growing darkness, 8 million beings looked up at the stars and hoped that somewhere in the vast universe, someone was listening. Dr. Lyrian Vex remained at her post in the observatory, monitoring space for any response. She knew that even at light speed, any reply would take decades to reach them. They would be long dead before help could arrive through conventional means. But perhaps, she dared to hope, these distant beings possessed technology beyond Zephyrian understanding. Days passed. The radiation levels continued to climb and more sections of their planetary shield went offline. The floating cities began implementing emergency protocols, shutting down non-essential systems to conserve what little power remained. Artists stopped painting, musicians put away their instruments, and children were kept indoors as the once friendly suns became harbingers of death. But in the depths of space, something was stirring. The Zephyrians' message had not only reached Earth, but had triggered a chain of events that would soon bring the most powerful military force in known space to their doorstep. What the dying aliens didn't know was that their gentle plea for help was about to be interpreted as something else entirely. As another solar flare erupted from their primary star, bathing their world in deadly radiation, the Zephyrians huddled in their weakening shelters and continued to hope. They had no way of knowing that their message of peace was racing toward a species that had learned to see threats in every shadow, enemies in every unknown signal. Humanity was coming, but they were coming armed for war. Thunder and Misunderstanding, the Deep Space Monitoring Station. Sigma-9 floated in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, its massive array of sensors and receivers constantly scanning the void for signs of intelligence. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was reviewing routine stellar cartography reports when the computers began registering something extraordinary. "Sir, we're picking up an artificial signal from deep space," called out Specialist Chen Lu from her monitoring station. "It's definitely not natural phenomena." Morrison moved to her workstation, coffee mug still in hand. In his 12 years of monitoring space, he had learned to distinguish between cosmic background noise and genuine artificial signals. This one was clearly different. The mathematical patterns were too complex, too organized to be anything but the product of intelligence. "Source?" he asked. "Kepler 442 system, sir. Approximately 28 light-years distant. The signal strength is incredible for that distance. Whoever sent this has serious transmission capabilities." Morrison studied the incoming data streams. The signal was indeed powerful. requiring enormous energy resources to transmit across interstellar distances. In his experience, only military communications required that kind of broadcast strength. He made the decision that would change everything. Priority, classification. Send it to Earth Command immediately. The message reached Earth Military Command within 6 hours, where it landed on the desk of Admiral Sarah Chen, Director of Extraterrestrial Defense. Chen was a veteran of humanity's first contact wars, having fought in the brutal conflicts with the Arcturus Collective and the Rigel Syndicate. She had learned through blood and loss that when unknown aliens made contact with humanity, it was rarely for peaceful purposes. Chen opened the file and immediately noted several concerning factors. The signal originated from outside mapped space, used extremely high power transmission, and contained complex data packages that could represent star charts or tactical information. Her analysts hadn't finished decoding the message, but preliminary reports indicated it contained detailed information about stellar positions and what appeared to be population centers. "Get me Battlefleet Prometheus," she ordered her aide. "Full deployment authorization." Battlefleet Prometheus was humanity's premier deep space naval force, consisting of 7 massive warships designed for extended operations far from Earth. The flagship HSN Thunderstrike was a kilometer-long dreadnought armed with enough firepower to reduce a planet to molten slag. Supporting vessels included heavy cruisers Vanguard and Defiance, destroyers Raptor, Falcon, and Eagle, plus the carrier Infinity with its complement of fighter craft. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez received his orders while the fleet was conducting training exercises near Mars. A career military officer who had served in every major engagement of the past 2 decades, Rodriguez understood the implications immediately. An unknown alien civilization had made contact using military-grade transmission equipment, and Earth Command wanted a show of force. "Set course for the Kepler 442 system," he ordered his navigation officer. "Best possible speed." The journey would take 3 weeks using humanity's most advanced faster-than-light drives. During the transit, Rodriguez studied what little intelligence they had about the target system. Long-range surveys indicated a single habitable world with evidence of advanced civilization, but no detailed information was available about their technology or intentions. What Rodriguez didn't know was that back on Earth, Dr. Elena Santos of VIA, the Xenolinguistics Institute, was working frantically to decode the alien message. Unlike the military analysts who were looking for threats, Santos was trained to identify communication patterns and linguistic structures. What she was finding didn't match the official interpretation at all. "These aren't star charts," she told her research team, pointing at the holographic displays showing the alien transmission. "These are pictures, family groups, cities, children, playing. And look at this mathematical sequence here. It's not navigation data. It's expressing concepts like help, peace, and friendship." But Santos's report wouldn't reach Admiral Rodriguez for another week, and by then, Battlefleet Prometheus would already be dropping out of hyperspace in Zephyrian territory. On Zephyros, the situation had grown desperate. Dr. Lyrian Vex watched her radiation monitors climb into the lethal range as another section of their planetary shield failed. 3 of the smaller floating cities had been evacuated, their populations crowded into the better protected larger settlements. Food production was failing as the atmospheric processors struggled with increasing solar radiation. "Any response to our transmission?" asked Chancellor Wynneth during the daily crisis meeting. "Nothing yet," Lyrian replied, though she tried to keep hope in her voice. "But it may take time for them to prepare an answer." What she didn't say was that their time was running out faster than anyone realized. Her private calculations showed they had weeks, not months, before the radiation reached levels that would make their world uninhabitable, even with full shelter protocols. That's when the sky changed. It started as a ripple in space itself, visible, even through the radiation-hazed atmosphere. Then came flashes of blue-white light that had nothing to do with their failing suns. When the distortions cleared, 7 massive objects hung in the void above their world. The human warships were like nothing in Zephyrian experience, where their vessels were graceful and curved. Designed for efficiency and beauty, these alien craft were angular and predatory. Dark metal hulls bristled with weapon systems, sensor arrays, and armor plating. They looked like they had been built for one purpose: war. In the observatory, alarms began screaming as their sensors detected the enormous energy signatures from the alien vessels. Lyrian stared at the readings in disbelief. Each ship generated more power than their entire civilization used in a year. "Chancellor," she called, her voice shaking. "We have visitors." The human fleet had arrived, but something was terribly wrong. Instead of taking protective positions around the planet or sending diplomatic shuttles, the alien warships were deploying in attack formation. The largest vessel positioned itself directly above their capital city, while the others spread out to cover all approaches to their world. On the bridge of the Thunderstrike, Admiral Rodriguez was conducting his own assessment of the situation. His sensors showed a planet covered with floating cities and advanced energy systems, just as the intelligence reports had suggested. More concerning was the detection of numerous spacecraft in the planet's orbital space. "Sir, we're reading multiple contacts launching from the planetary surface," reported his tactical officer. "Small craft, but they're moving directly toward our formation." Rodriguez had seen this pattern before. The aliens were testing their defenses, probing for weaknesses. It was a classic prelude to attack. "All ships to battle stations. Weapons, hot, but do not fire without my direct order." What Rodriguez couldn't know was that the approaching craft were Zephyrian greeting vessels, small atmospheric shuttles loaded with welcome gifts and cultural artifacts. The pilots were volunteers, eager to make peaceful contact with the beings who had traveled across the stars in response to their plea for help. Leading the small flotilla was Captain Zara Vel, one of their most experienced pilots. She had been chosen for this historic mission because of her calm demeanor and natural diplomatic skills. As she approached the massive alien ships, she broadcast continuous messages of welcome and gratitude. "Greetings, travelers from the distant stars," she transmitted on all frequencies. "We are the Zephyrian people, and we welcome you to our dying world. We are grateful beyond words that you have come in response to our call for help. Please, let us show you the beauty of our culture and the desperate nature of our need." But the human ships couldn't decode her language, and their translation computers were still processing the original transmission from weeks ago. To Admiral Rodriguez, the approaching craft looked like attack vessels testing his defenses. "Sir, the alien craft are not responding to our hail," reported his communications officer. "They're maintaining course toward our formation." Rodriguez made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "If they don't alter course in 60 seconds, treat them as hostile. Activate point defense systems." The human point defense weapons were designed to destroy incoming missiles and fighter craft before they could threaten the larger ships. They were fully automated systems that could track and eliminate dozens of targets simultaneously. When Captain Zaravel's shuttle crossed the predetermined threat threshold, the computers didn't hesitate. The first energy pulse vaporized her ship instantly. The second and third destroyed the craft carrying Zephyrian art and music. Within 30 seconds, all 6 greeting vessels were gone, along with the dreams of peaceful first contact. On Zephyros, millions of beings watched in horror as their representatives were destroyed without warning. The floating cities went dark as emergency protocols activated, and the few remaining defense systems that still functioned came online for the first time in centuries. But just as the situation seemed hopeless, Dr. Elena Santos's report finally reached Admiral Rodriguez. Her decoded translation of the original Zephyrian message appeared on his tactical display, and the truth hit him like a physical blow. "They're not attacking," he said quietly, his voice carrying across the silent bridge. "They're dying. They're asking for help." The greatest military force in human space had just opened fire on refugees. The beings they had come to fight were actually desperate civilians seeking rescue from a natural disaster. Admiral Rodriguez looked at the planet below, where billions of lights were dimming as a peaceful civilization prepared for what they thought was an alien invasion. He had arrived, with the power to save an entire species or destroy them. In the next few hours, Rodriguez would have to find a way to transform the greatest misunderstanding in galactic history into the largest humanitarian rescue operation ever attempted. The thunder of human warships had announced their arrival, but it was humanity's compassion that would ultimately write the ending to this story.